about the importance of winning the AI race, but I think I'd like to just put a finer point on the stakes here. Mr. Chhabra, your company Anthropic has recently put out a vivid case study of how China might well use AI models against us. Could you give us a little more detail about what it would look like to be in a world where China has won the AI race, how that affects their military and economic capabilities, and how they would use that against us, briefly?
Yes, Senator. In September of this year, Anthropic detected and disrupted an effort by Chinese state-affiliated actors to commit what we believe was the first documented case of an AI-orchestrated cyber espionage case in which 80 to 90% of the attack was conducted autonomously, including the intrusion, the efforts to exfiltrate data, so on and so forth. We believe there are about 30 targets that were impacted around the world. We, of course, we could disrupt it, inform the affected parties, engage the U.S. government, obviously, on it, and we're doing more to step up our own detection going forward. But unfortunately, I think we have to expect a lot more of this going forward, cyber attacks at scale. And so what it tells us is we need to invest a lot more in cyber defense. We need to make sure we have better models conducting defense, and we need to empower our government, particularly the military, with better models for cyber offense as well. We need to get the word out. It took us around 15 years to come to terms with how the internet was changing cybersecurity globally. We cannot afford that again. And it goes back to the question we were discussing earlier, which is we just need to have more powerful models, both for offense and defense, because we don't want to live in a world in which the CCP has better models to commit attacks like this.
Thank you, Mr. Chhabra. Mr. Miller, can you just describe the relative balance between the United States and the PRC when it comes to compute? Am I correct in understanding Secretary Lutnick's testimony earlier this year that China will produce roughly 200,000 of the most advanced AI chips, not even enough to feed their own data centers, let alone flood the global market?
Senator, that's correct. There's, of course, a range of estimates on China's current and future chip production, but by any realistic estimate, private sector, public sector, academic, China's going to produce ballpark 5% of the chip output of the West over the next couple of years. China is, of course, 20% of global GDP. It aspires to be a leader in AI, and so having such a small volume of chips is a real competitive disadvantage.
In fact, I think they aspire not just to be a leader, but to be dominant in AI, and as you've just pointed out. For our national security or economic security, that would be a very bad outcome. The Trump administration has reportedly considered selling advanced H200 chips to China, and we know Blackwells were discussed in the advance of the recent Xi-Trump meeting in South Korea. I just love a yes or no answer from each of you, if I could. Is it in the U.S. national interest to export either of these advanced NVIDIA chip models, H200s or Blackwells, to China?
No.
No.
No, Senator.
No. So thank you for your support for a bill we look forward to introducing and advancing. I'd be interested in one last question, if I might, about export control loopholes. You've all talked about how important it is that we have effective export controls and that we close the relevant loopholes. There's two parts to this: ensuring Chinese companies and their subsidiaries both can't get access to advanced chips and semiconductor manufacturing tools. I've seen articles in the Wall Street Journal, Financial Times, about PRC subsidiaries in the U.S. being able to access chips and PRC companies leasing data centers abroad for training systems, both potential vulnerabilities. Mr. Miller, could you just talk to us for a minute, Mr. Allen as well, about what additional steps do we need to take to close these loopholes?
Senator, I believe the primary focus should be on first tightening up our existing export controls on the sale of chips to China. Once a chip crosses into China, we have no further control over it. I also believe there's further steps to be taken on the sale of chip-making equipment to China, where there are still real gaps in our export controls, especially when you compare our rules to those of the Netherlands and those of Japan. I further agree that we should look into restrictions or limitations on Chinese firms' ability to access data centers abroad.
Mr. Allen.
Let me just add on the equipment side of the story. The reason why Huawei does not currently have a chip that is competitive to NVIDIA is because of equipment and manufacturing export controls that the first Trump administration put in place. SMIC, the most advanced logic manufacturer in China, tried to buy an EUV machine in 2018, and was going to get the sale until it was blocked by export controls. Huawei was about to fab a 7-nanometer chip at TSMC before NVIDIA was. NVIDIA's current dominance in the Chinese market is the result of export controls, not something that is threatened by export controls. And the biggest challenge that we have to sustaining these export controls over the long term is on the equipment. Because China, I mean, actually the Huawei chips right now are pretty lousy, but they are capable of designing decent chips. What they cannot do is make decent chips. And that entirely hinges upon our ability to keep the equipment out there. So we have some good controls on equipment. We need to go after components, and we need to go after other allies and partners that make key components, like Germany, like others, to expand the multilateral nature of this.
Thank you. It seems clear we need a coordinated, sustained, strong partner strategy with our core allies. On previous trips we've taken to Taiwan, on visits I've recently made to the Netherlands, South Korea, I've raised these issues, and I think we need to make them a central part of our strategy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.